Alright, so in this video we're going to go over how to make a head bob, like a camera action on our first person character. If we press play as is, we'll see that when we move around we're just kind of staying level, um, like our head as the character is kind of staying level. So let's go ahead and figure out how to kind of make it bob around as we walk. So first thing we need to do is we need to create a new blueprint, and we're going to go ahead down to this all classes section, and we're going to search camera shake, and then we'll see something called matinee camera shake. Go ahead and select that, press select. We'll call this head bob, and we'll go ahead and open it up. So when we open it up, we won't see anything in here, but in our details panel we'll see a variety of settings. So we are going to go ahead and change a couple of them. So the ones we're looking at are the oscillation duration. We're just going to set that to a real big number, just big number. Then we have the blend in time and the blend out time. I'm going to set them both to 0.4, but you can play around with these settings to get something that works for you. And then we're going to go down to the amplitude, and we're going to change them to 1.5 for the amplitude, and about 3 for the frequency. So we're adjusting the roll because the roll is our left and right movement, and then so the amplitude's how far left and right we move, and then the frequency is how quickly we move left and right. So we're going to change those couple of settings. We're going to set the initial offset to 0, so we go the same way each time, and then we're going to compile, we're going to save. So next thing we need to do is we need to open up our first person character blueprint. So I have a first person folder, blueprints, first person character blueprint class. And when we're in here, we're going to start setting up a couple things. First thing we need is to set up some custom events to trigger our head roll. So we're going to right click, we're going to go add custom event, and we're going to call this start head bob. And then off of that we're going to grab, or we'll now right click, and we're going to get player camera manager, and we'll drag off that. We're going to grab the start matinee camera shake, and we can go ahead and plug these in. And then in here we'll see the shake class. If we click the drop down, we'll see our blueprint we made. We'll go ahead and select that, so now it'll play our camera shake. And then we also need to make another custom event, so we'll add custom event again, and we'll call this end head bob. And we will go ahead and drag off of this, and we're going to stop camera right here. We'll just right click and we'll see stop camera shake. Pull off, stop camera. There it is. So pull off the get player camera manager, stop camera, and we'll see stop camera shake. Go ahead and plug this into there, and then just take this return value and we'll plug it in to the shake instance. Alright, so this is our first little bit of code. Go ahead and get it organized, and then I'm going to highlight it all, press C to frame it, and we're going to call this start and stop head bob, just so we know what it is. So now we have this event that we can call to. Now we have to call to it and trigger it to happen. So to do that, we're going to do this based off our movement input. So we want it so whenever we're moving to do this head bob. So to get that going, we'll drag off this add movement input, and we'll get a branch, And the branch will just let us set a condition to be, if this condition is true, run these events. And then we'll have both of these movement inputs into the branch. So this is our forward, backwards movement and our left and right movement. Now let's set up the condition. So we want the condition to be if we're moving at all in the forward or backwards or the left and right to run the head bob. So to do that, we're going to go ahead and get velocity. We're going to right click the return values, split it, so we have the x, y, and z. We don't care about the z, just the x and y. Then we're going to add you can just do the little things, and then the greater than less than, we're going to grab a greater than node, plug in the x, set the value to 1. Then we're going to grab a less than node, plug in the x, set it to -1. Then we will duplicate these, so copy paste, and we'll plug in the y value into these two. So now we're looking for the x and the y when they're greater or less than 1. Now out of these, we're going to add if we drag out one of them, we can get a OR Boolean. And we can add a couple more pins. We can plug all these into here. So it's basically going to check if any of these are true, this or this or this or this, then we set the condition. So now that's our condition if we're moving forward or backwards or left or right. Now for the start, or for the true and false, we're going to pull out of this and we're going to add a do once, because we want this to run one time. And then after, we'll pull out from there and we'll add start head bob. So we can just, anytime we make a custom event like this, we can start it somewhere else in our code. So we'll start it, and then in the false, we'll add another do once, completed, grab the stop head, stop camera, sorry, stop head bob, what did we call it? End head bob. And head bob. So this is just matching the name of whatever event I set up down here. And then we kind of want these to interact with each other, so we're going to take the output of the start head bob and then put it into the reset of the do once down here, and then take the end of this one and put it up here. So we have a cross. So that way they're always repeating on each other and going around and around. So that's all the code we should need. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight these, put them in a box, and this will just be use head bob when moving. Now we can compile, we can save. Now when we press play, as we move, we'll get a little bit of a head bob, just to add a little interest to the camera. Now if we want to adjust any of those settings, if we don't like how it looks, we would go back to our head bob blueprint and play with these settings. So if I went and maybe drop the amplitude down to 1 and up the frequency to 5, let's see what that does. Compile, save, play. You can see we move a little less but a little faster. So you can play around with those settings in your blueprint, in your head bob blueprint, to kind of tune this in to, the look you want. So that's creating a simple head bob that you can add on to your first person character.